I don't know if we're even allowed to film here. On this map, we can see the 13 regions of China where tea grows, and also Taiwan. It's the map of tea growing regions in China. During the Tang dynasty, tea gardens were already widespread, and the first items of teaware were created, and rather dainty at that. Glazed ceramics, teapots, tea culture was already developed. In ancient times, tea was used as a medicine. That's what this information stand says. Then it goes on to tell us how tea culture was developed and transformed as it spread from the south, from Yunnan and Sichuan to the north. Tea became more cultured. The first items of teaware were created. Tea wasn't just a medicine anymore. A whole ritual was developing around it. It's impossible to imagine a tea museum without Lu Yu, the author of Cha Jing. During the Qing dynasty, the tea trade gradually developed with the West, with Europe. For instance, there are some interesting examples of porcelain made specifically for export. Items like this were not used in China. Here we see a map of the Maritime Tea Trade routes to Europe, and some images depicting trade relations between the countries. Here we can observe the transformation of tea brewing appliances during the Song dynasty. Here's the famous hare's fur glaze. And this fascinating thing here is a roller used to grind tea. As you might know, ground tea powder originated in China, where it's not used anymore. However, it's still very popular in Japan. Displayed here are very interesting examples of wrapping paper, used for tea in the Chinese Republic from 1912 to 1949, before the communist era. This one is an interesting combination of Eastern and Western cultures. This is a machine for the famous Runian technique, shape twisting of tea leaves after they were roasted. Now they use modern mechanical machine tools. But in the early 20th century they were still using machines like this one. This device is mostly used for production of oolongs, especially in Weishan and Guangdong. On this stand, they display a typical tea taster's room. These are tea tasting cups. These pictures explain the procedure that a tea master performs to evaluate the quality of tea. This is an exhibition of the most famous Chinese tea varieties. This pie chart shows the ratio of teas exported from China, and you can see that green tea is the absolute leader here. This hall is all about methods to grow tea bushes and general botanical information. Oolong production is a very complex technological process. We've talked about it before in our videos about the production of Da Hong Pao. Here are small models of almost each and every machine used for processing and production of tea. For instance, this machine is used for fixing and roasting tea in Tie Guanyin production. This one is for Runian, rolling and twisting the tea. A machine for drying, a machine for fermentation, and so on. All sorts of machines for tea production. The museum staff were very creative. They even made an interactive menu of tea brewing methods. You pick a method, what brewing ware to use, a glass, a teapot, or a gaiwan, and a variety of tea. And then you look at the screen to observe the tea being brewed. And this whole floor is dedicated to the vast variety of tea and ways to prepare it. This chart shows how the tea industry was progressing since the foundation of the People's Republic of China. You can clearly see how stagnated it was during the formative period of the Republic, especially the Cultural Revolution, and everything turned better after the reforms under Deng Xiaoping, then gradual growth in the 1990s, and almost explosive growth after. Simply compare 2011 and the 1990s. This is a traditional Tibetan tea room. The furniture setting, as well as a traditional Tibetan teapot. This is a view of Lhasa. This floor is dedicated to the traditional tea rooms of different Chinese regions. The traditional tea setting from Anhui province is probably the closest to how people drink tea in the West. The teapot looks similar, so they brew tea in it and then pour it directly into these big cups. Some ethnic groups of China, like the Dai people, boil tea over a bonfire. There's a fireplace on their porch. They boil water for tea over the fire in a pot. They also roast tea over fire. We showed it in our video from Yunnan. This is the corner of a tea house, where guests can browse and choose a tea, and then take it to the tea room and have it. In this hall, there's particularly interesting items and tea sets of different ethnic minorities of China. For example, local Muslims, then some rare types of teapots, and here you are, the first Chinese samovar. The most original teaware used to brew and serve tea, tea trays, made of wood inlaid with mother-of-pearl, a tray made of green jade, these interesting gaiwans of blue glass, a Qing dynasty jade teapot, decorated with calligraphy, a small portable tea set, a prototype of modern travel sets, a tiny teapot, small cups. Everything is carefully packed and wrapped in a small bag. In the Yixing Ceramics Museum, we also saw a similar teapot inlaid with jade. This teapot is from the Qing dynasty era, and its shape is completely different, but the handle, the spout and the lid are inlaid very similarly with Xinjiang jade, hand-painted porcelain from the Qing dynasty. Enjoy your tea.